it's fun to do it this way. We're just getting into it now. Third edition of Ask Amy Anything. And we've got banners up on social now, and we continue to believe that you all will find us. If we build it, you will come, you will show up. So producer Zach, what have we got for our questions on this edition of the Hump Show?
So I'm going to start with one that we got here in the YouTube feed that I thought was a phenomenal question from Elmer, who he asked both of us, but if we had ever been to Allen Fieldhouse, Arrowhead Stadium, or Royals Stadium.
Well, actually, I'm not sure what your answer is, but I've been to all three, but very different circumstances. Royal Stadium, I went to a game. I enjoy going to different baseball stadiums. It's actually Kauffman Stadium, right? So I went to a game. Arrowhead Stadium, I've been there for work twice. Okay, so on one occasion, this was crazy. It's the only time I've ever been in an empty NFL stadium, but I was working for a local radio outlet in Oklahoma, believe it or not. And the owner of the radio station had a connection somehow with the owner, maybe not the owner, with someone who worked at Arrowhead. And he was able to get me into their radio booth. So the radio booth where they broadcast the games from, he was able to get me into the radio booth for a Friday morning show. There was no one except the security guard who let me in and me in this entire stadium. And so I did my morning show on scene there. My co-host was back in our studio in Oklahoma, and I was in Arrowhead Stadium in the dark initially until the sun came up and it started to shine on the field. It was surreal to be in a stadium that large and that awesome and be the only person there and to be doing a morning radio show. So that goes back, gosh, into my 20s. So as you can imagine, it was more spectacular that early in my career. The next day, I think it was the next day. It was a Saturday Big 12 championship, and it was cold. Now, this was December. So the Big 12 championship was held there between Kansas State and Oklahoma, which is part of the reason that we were covering it as a morning show.
Is that the Darren Sproles game?
Good question. I'm not sure.
I'll look that up.
Okay, many of the details, but I do know this. I was on the sidelines for the first half of the game. First of all, I've never heard a crowd quite like that. The noise from a full Arrowhead Stadium it's energetic, but it's crazy. Sometimes you can't hear yourself think. And the stadium was cut in half between the crimson and cream and the purple and white of OU and then Kansas State. But here's the other part that I remember. Maybe this is why I don't remember a lot of the details about the game. By halftime, I could not feel my feet. It was so cold on the field, on the sidelines, that I could not feel my feet in my shoes. And I had to retreat to the press box during the second half because my feet were about to have frostbite and fall off. So that was my memory of Arrowhead Stadium. It was an amazing atmosphere, and I can tell you firsthand how loud it gets there. And this was a stadium that was divided, so not even a full stadium of Chiefs fans who make that an incredible NFL home field advantage. Now, Allen Fieldhouse, which is in Lawrence, Kansas, that's the KU Rock Chalk Jayhawk. That's their facility. I've never been there for a game, but I was in Lawrence for some other reason. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was to cover a football. Actually, I think it was to cover a football game back when I was again, in Oklahoma, working local radio, and I would travel around and go to various stadiums inside the Big 12. And I was there and decided that I would try to sneak into Allen Fieldhouse because, of course, you hear about it as a mecca, a hallowed ground in college hoops. And I did. Now, this was when Roy Williams was there. So I found a door that was open. I get into the concourse and I hear voices coming from the basketball court. So I walk around the concourse. No one saw me. I just was minding my own business. And I kept checking doors. And one of the doors into the arena was propped open. So I pulled open the door. I was able to get just a brief taste of Allen Fieldhouse. At that point, again, in my 20s, I was a little bit nervous that I was going to get caught and thrown in jail. And so I didn't stay very long, but, and gosh, it might have even been pre-smartphones where you could take pictures. But I did open the door. I saw the team out there on the court. it definitely had the character of an older arena, and it was just my story to tell about sneaking into Allen Fieldhouse. So I have been to all three, but very unique circumstances for each of them.
I don't have, well, two things. I am still, I always call it Fog Allen still for some reason, but Allen
Mhm.
Fieldhouse has always been just on my bucket list forever.
Oh, for sure.
I also, I don't know why, I've been to a lot of, a decent amount of college basketball games, and everywhere I've gone, even as visiting fans, those Kansas Jayhawks fans are some of the best. It's just, so
Mhm.
I've always wanted to be there and actually enjoy it like in that atmosphere. I looked it up though, just to see. That Big 12 championship game, it was 27 degrees at kickoff. So
And
that
that's not
explains
even
why.
wind chills, right? Not
Yeah,
even wind chills.
yeah. So it was pretty cold that night. So I see why you
Yeah.
moved up to the press box. One we got off the Facebook page from
Mhm.
Jeff. It's kind of a two-parter, but I thought it was pretty interesting. Have you ever been on other people's podcasts? But also, what are your favorites to listen to?
Oh, good question. Yes, I've done a lot of podcasts. My friend Jessica Kleinschmidt, who was on the show Monday, she's had me on her podcast. She did one for Awful Announcing for a few years. And so when I left my last job after almost 13 years, I gave her the scoop, if you will, and did her podcast first and explained why I had left. Also, another one of the podcasts that I've done multiple times that I really enjoy is Sports Spectrum. And it's an intersection of faith and sports. And so my good friend, my longtime friend, former ESPN colleague of mine, Jason Romano, started this podcast, but also it's Matt Forte now. And so Matt Forte, the former NFL running back, Bears running back, he and Jason host it together. Sometimes Matt will host it solo. And what stands out to me about my last appearance on their podcast is not only that we were able to talk about faith, but also that Matt has an adoption story in his family. And at this point, my husband and I were very early in the adoption process, and to get the encouragement from him and to hear his story and what a blessing adoption has been to his family really encouraged me. And right after that, I was diving into research, and my husband and I were figuring out which agency we wanted to work with and how we wanted to approach the adoption process. So those are two more recent appearances that I've made. But yeah, I get requests to be on podcasts a lot, and I think it's fun. I don't always love to do it on video. Sometimes it used to be that you could say, I'm just going to do audio, but you can't really do that anymore. David Shepard, another colleague of mine that I worked with at the network, he's got a new podcast on YouTube. And so I've been on his podcast as well. What are some that I watch and listen to? That is a great question. I believe it or not, I listen and watch more listen actually. I'll run when I listen to podcasts, and since I haven't been running outside much at all this summer in Texas, I really haven't done a lot of that lately, but I will listen to podcasts that are political in nature. I don't even think I need to tell you which ones, but I'll listen to some podcasts of people that I enjoy. We'll keep politics out of this, but I do enjoy hearing different podcasts that I feel like I can identify with, and hey, those people have the same views as me. I also like true crime podcasts, and so I will listen to those. Now, some of them they cross over into the scary, and so I don't need to be watching or listening to them. But yeah, true crime is one, and then history podcasts. You ever seen those podcasts like where did it come from, or the origins type of a question that you might ask about history, how was it made, that kind of thing. So big into history, I enjoy those. I've recently delved into a book on tape, though I'm not sure it's my thing, but I'm trying it. It's a Jack Carr novel. He's a former Navy SEAL sniper who's turned very prolific author. And so I enjoy reading his books too. And I accidentally got one from the library that was the audio book as opposed to the actual book with the binding. And so I've been listening to it. We'll see. We'll see if I stick with that while I'm driving.
I was going to ask if that went off into audiobooks too. So I'm glad you kind of took that there. I found myself, the older I get, for some reason, I am able to. Used to, couldn't be able to sit down and do other things while I would listen to audiobooks, but the nonfiction does seem to help, and it does feel very much like a podcast.
Yeah.
Another comment we got on Facebook, this one from David: where would you like to visit for hiking? And have you ever been to Yosemite?
Yosemite is on our bucket list. Thank you so much for asking. Yes, my husband and I, we are big fans of national parks. And so I got him a national park pass for our anniversary last December. And we've been trying to use it. Our most recent hike, excuse me, not sure why I'm being a frog today. Our most recent hike was in Colorado, and it was in the area of, they call it Buena Vista, I call it Buena Vista, but the area where there are more than a dozen 14,000-foot peaks, and they call them 14ers. It's really it's the Ivy League range, the collegiate range, actually. They're named after a bunch of Ivy League schools. And so we were able to get up to over 12,000 feet, and we were right there. We could have, at the time, my husband was still recovering from shoulder surgery, and so he had a sling. So it's going to be kind of tough to start scaling rocks up to 14,000 feet, but we do plan to go back and do that. So that was our most recent. Yosemite as well as Yellowstone are both on our bucket list. And one of the benefits, as much as I miss the ocean, I miss the Atlantic, I miss being within driving distance of mountains. There's not a lot of that in Texas. You got to drive for what feels like 2 days in Texas to get out of the state. But I do love the fact that we're closer to some of these mountain ranges and mountain peaks in the West, and of course the Rocky Mountain range. So being in Colorado most recently was kind of fun. We were able to see Pikes Peak because I've got a friend that lives in Colorado Springs, and we went to visit her for dinner. So yeah, I think Colorado will probably be, because it's only about a 15-hour drive. We love road trips. It'll probably be a place that we frequent, and then we can get into some of these other hikes. I know that my husband would like to go camping. He and my brother are big into camping, and they could do some Colorado camping. Plus, even in June, the temps were in the mid 40s at night in this area of Colorado, and I was in heaven. We had windows open to sleep with the temps down in the mid 40s. So Yosemite and Yellowstone, as well as, believe it or not, I've never been to Mount Rushmore, and we want to do that drive up to South Dakota and see Mount Rushmore. So we've got a lot now on our list because we feel like more of it is accessible. But also in March, is it late March? Late March, we went to visit some family in Arizona, and my husband and I did the Bright Angel Trail at the Grand Canyon, even though they're experiencing record heat this summer, and it was in the 90s that day. So it was hot in the canyon, but we managed to trudge our way back up. And so that was kind of those were two of our recent challenging hikes.
Gotcha. All of that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's good.
I was trying to find one more. We have one from Frank, and did you ever get a horse? Is there more backstory to that?
Well, because we're in Texas now, because my husband and I are both horse lovers, we go horseback riding for anniversaries and on vacation and stuff. I have told people that we are at some point planning to get a horse here, and we haven't done it yet. So this is kind of what we've decided. Adoption first. Horse is down the road at some point somewhere. And I don't know that you could have just one. Horses, cows, they're herd animals. So Hubs would like to get chickens and actually goats to help with some of the mowing. I would like to have some cows because I love cows and I love beef. And so we're kind of going back and forth, and we circle around what animals should we try first. But we definitely will have animals. We've got cranes and herons that are in our pond. We've got a lot of turtles. We've got raccoons, deer, wild hogs, and coyotes that all go through the back of our property. So it's not just our property. We don't have a ton of acreage, but we do have got some wooded acres back in the back. And so we get all of these animals that come through. And so we're just trying to figure out, what animals we would like to raise in addition to dogs. Probably, to be perfectly honest, our next step would be a barn cat, because I miss having a cat, and we're going to need a barn cat for the mice that are in pretty much every Texas barn, right? So that might be our next animal.
I'm just going to use this as a little story of my own. We had goats growing up too. And they are fantastic. Yeah. And they are fantastic of keeping the yard short, but we had fainting goats. So if a loud noise was made by them, they just kind of fall over on their side. They literally just,
is that a way to protect themselves, or they actually faint?
It's not I can't think it's a real faint, because after they do, it would never take them too long to kind of get back up and walk. So I think it's more of a protection thing. But the funny thing is we had to raise one of them from a baby on, and then we introduced her back in there. And so all of them would hear something loud and all of them would fall down and she would just be looking around at them like, what in the world's going
What's
on?
happening? She
Yeah.
wasn't taught the proper way to faint at
No,
loud
she
noises.
wasn't.
Oh my
She
gosh, they're
wasn't.
floppers. Your goats were floppers.
They were they were big Manu Ginobili fans. So another one that we got on Facebook from John is, have you found any good Italian food in Texas?
No. So growing up in the Northeast and being Italian food is really important to me. I'm sure there are good Italian restaurants, but I'll be honest, I'm a little bit reluctant to try an Italian restaurant in Texas only because I don't want to be disappointed. So I haven't yet done that. We found a Thai place, actually a couple of Thai places to kind of stand in for my favorite Thai place in New Jersey. We definitely have steakhouses that we've enjoyed, Mexican food, obviously, authentic Mexican food in Texas, barbecue, yes, not yet having found either a Greek restaurant or an Italian restaurant. So if anyone has any suggestions in the Houston area, actually we might even drive to go to a good Italian restaurant because I miss it. So right now, Italian food is when I make it or when we make it here in the house. We don't have, yeah, we don't have as much of that around. So blah.
What is your, sorry, just because you said
okay.
I wanted to ask, then what is your like your key dish that you make then? If you win, like what is Amy's best made dish?
Gotcha. Well, I do love arrabbiata, which is a red marinara spicy sauce. And so last night we did penne and arrabbiata sauce with also shrimp. Oh, big, my mom's jumbo shrimp because she was staying here. So jumbo shrimp and broccoli. And then we had some roasted peppers. So yeah, I like to throw a lot of different foods into the pot as opposed to just your spaghetti. And I rarely do spaghetti. I guess every now and then I do spaghetti. We also love to do seafood with our pasta. So at Christmas time, so Christmas Eve, you have the 7 fishes for Italians. A lot of families do the 7 fishes. We don't always get to 7. Sometimes we only do 5, but we'll do a squid sauce. So a linguine with clam sauce and then do a squid sauce in a marinara, which is delicious as well. My brother is great at making his homemade pasta sauce. I found a couple out of a jar that I think are pretty close. But yeah, the spicier the better in my family. If you add red pepper flakes to your sauce or throw just a bunch of different stuff into a pot and turn it into a big old pasta, it fills you up pretty quickly. It's delish. So yeah, thanks for asking. I got good food, Italian and Polish. Those are my 2 foods. So pierogies and sauerkraut, kielbasa and brats. Yum. That brings back a lot of memories from summers in Wisconsin when I was a kid. I'm going to answer one more before we get to a break because it cracks me up. On our Facebook page, Chris says, have you adapted to a normal daylight schedule since being off the air? It's funny. You take for granted that people know what you're doing and that they follow along, but that's not really the case. And so that's why I'm still very much in this spread the word mode because I've not been off the air. I was maybe off the air for 4 weeks before I jumped into Sirius XM and also, between Mad Dog Radio and NFL Radio and then Westwood One voice work and doing some shows for them, some studio work for them, Houston local radio, I definitely have not been off the air. Now it's been an atypical, unconventional schedule, but I was only off the air for a month and he's asking me, have I adapted to a daylight schedule now that I'm off the air as here I am doing a show. So I guess he's not seen the previous Facebook posts about the new show and being back in this space and trying something new, this new challenge. So that made me laugh. But the question is essentially, have you adapted to a daylight schedule? Yes. I mean, I've stopped doing overnights going back to February of 2025. So being a nocturnal night owl type of person, I'll stay up late. I'll read sometimes. I'll do some research or I'll be watching a show after my husband's already gone to bed or I'm working late night. So some of the Sirius XM shows I do, they go until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. But yes, I am adapting now to being awake and being bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and figuring out how to be a morning person. I'm not so good at it. So the coffee comes in very handy. The vat of coffee comes in very handy.